Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast where we talk all things Australian football. I'm joined as always by Mopper. How are you today?
Yeah, welcome, Chief. We've got a smorgasbord on tonight. Absolutely a massive headlines we have. Lots to talk about. We've got the Aussies overseas competing in the European qualifying over there for the in conference, Europa Cup and Champions League. So there's lots to talk about there. On the home space, there's never-ending news on the home space with transfers, moves, player and the Matildas as well, young Matildas and the younger Matildas, and obviously with their squads being announced. And obviously, Chief, I just want to say love is in the air. We'd just like to congratulate Alex Sidiak on her recent marriage, and also Claire Wheeler for getting engaged to her partner. So well done to the girls. Love is in the air, Chief. So I'm ready to fire on this Sunday evening.
Oh, mate, what a beautiful way to start the podcast, mate. I love it. So
Well,
good.
go the girls. They're on fire.
All right, so we're going to talk about something first off that's just been released today by Football Australia. They released a statement in regards to the Australian Championship. So I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs from their statement. So Football Australia has confirmed the completion of another milestone for the Australian Championship with the conclusion of the third national second tier request for proposal application process on Monday, 21st of July, 2025. Following the announcement on 31st of October 2024 that the NST competition will commence in 2025, Football Australia also committed to a third NST request for proposal RFP process to select additional clubs to participate in the Australian Championship. The third NST RFP process was expanded to target clubs outside of the initial expression of interest process and predominantly from underrepresented states and territories. At the conclusion of this process, Football Australia did not receive any fully compliant bid proposals, but was encouraged with the prospect that additional clubs may be in a stronger position to join in the future. So lots of words there from Football Australia. I suppose to try and break that down a little bit. Basically, with the Australian Championship starting in October this year, we have 8 clubs that automatically go into that competition. And then to fill out that competition, we have NPL winners from around the country that make up the rest of that competition. Now, the RFP process is to try to extend on the 8 current teams that are in there, where they were looking to obviously build on this competition. It's obviously Champions League style format at the moment, but I think everyone wants it to get to that full league home and away system, and this is a way of trying to get more clubs into that process. What they're basically saying there is that they haven't been able to find any more clubs that fit the criteria that they're looking for to build on the 8 teams at this stage, but they're going to continue to work through that. There are some other points in the statement around timelines and what's to expect. We might put the link in the show notes so that you can see that for yourself. But I think there's a lot of kind of rumors and suggestions going on as to what's happening with the Australian Championship at the moment that we decided that we weren't going to get into tonight, and we won't. But I think in terms of Football Australia's piece of it, what they're trying to do is to build on the Australian Championship, but they also don't want to put clubs in there and risk their financial stability just to kind of be part of it, and they're trying to find that right balance between the two. So, what did you make of the statement that Football Australia put out, mate?
Oh, look, visionary. I'm excited that we're looking to build. Just not sure of the timing. We haven't really got the second tier. I know the draw's been released for the second tier competition, but I need to see an end product to where it actually lands. But I know they're trying to build numbers, but again, I think to in my opinion only, I think we're going backwards the opposite way. The pyramid is supposed to allow clubs to compete in a competition for promotion and relegation. I guess the challenges for that, and we don't want to get too deep into it, but the challenges is obviously the logistics of the competition and obviously the challenges with A-League promotion and relegation that hasn't been announced yet, and then they're working their way through this. How does it look? to me, it's just no clear vision or clear platform. If they want teams to apply for this, then what is the outcome? What's it look like? Like if I'm applying for something, I want to know what I'm applying for and where does it direct myself towards. If because you've got to understand these clubs have obviously got to put money in to invest to go into this. So I think there's a lot of work to do. I like the visionary part of it, how we're trying to look to build and on this, and I'm I applaud the thought process and the visionary behind it. But just I think we need to see what this pyramid or what this looks like if they want clubs to go in and go into this. I need to see more to understand it. And I think, look, like you said, we probably should park it now. They've announced it. It's exciting that they're looking at this and to build, but I really think we need clarity before we start taking steps forward about what the next steps are.
I think that's the really hard part, as you said, because we do have these eight teams in. They're all based in New South Wales and Victoria. And if we're looking to build on that, where are the guarantees? Where are the competition will be this in 5 years? We'll be looking for promo and relegation in 10 years. That's how I think you're going to get more clubs invested in it and more clubs seeking sponsorship to then get that backing. Because if there's no clear direction, and this is what we want a direction for where this competition is headed, and ultimately we want these teams to be able to get into the top tier, which is currently the A League, at some point. But if it's just going to kind of continue on and on and on, I think they're probably, and they, in the statement, as I said, I will put it in the show notes, but they did say that they're working with as many as 25 clubs, or have done over 2 years, and there are some clubs that are genuinely wanting to get into this Australian Championship. But yeah, I'd like to see some kind of roadmap. I'd like to see someone, say that this is where the competition is going to be, and this is how it is going to connect with the other competitions going on as well.
Yeah, it's a challenging web. It's going to be, yeah, look, oh, it's this is the difficulty. Yeah, there's no clear picture. If you want to invest, then where's the clear picture? So yeah, look, lots to unwind in Football Australia. I can see where what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go, but again, you raised some great points around clarity of competition. So until we get that in the second tier to what it actually is and what it looks like, again, you're talking about what does that look for broadcasting sponsors, like you said.
Yeah.
So that they're the key points for me. Again, I think we're trying to pedal fast and get this happening so we do have some kind of pyramid. But again, I don't know. I think we need a little bit more clarity on each level before we move forward on this.
Yeah, and just kind of a couple of other points on the Australian Championship. So the Football Australia released their domestic match calendar during the week, and part of that was where the Australian Championship kicks off on the 10th of October. We already knew that date of when the competition kicks off. But the interesting thing is that, and you've said this a lot of times on the podcast over the last couple of weeks, but the enormous amount of football that we're dealing with at the moment. But the Australian Championship kicks off on the 10th of October with a couple of games, and then the A League men's season kicks off on the 17th of October. So they get 1 week of complete exposure for their competition before we then launch into the A League men's competition, which will have so much hype around it. Well, we hope it does anyway. So I don't know, and we don't want necessarily the A League men's competition to be pushed back either, because the off season's already long enough. But 1 week of complete exposure is probably not ideal to be launching the inaugural Australian Championship.
Yeah, Friday the 10th of October, Chiefs South Melbourne opens against Sydney Olympic, and on Saturday 11th of October, the Preston Lions take on obviously NPL Premier, like a Connor Reserve. So again, it's yeah. Anyway, we've got to break it down. There's a lot of work to do in this space, and look, we want to see it succeed. So there's a few challenges, but I think there's a lot to work out in this space, and especially with Australian football. And until we get that one vision, it's going to be challenging. But again, good luck to the 8 teams that are in there. We wish them all the best to grow their clubs. RP Leichhardt, Avondale, Marconi, Preston, South Melbourne, Sydney Olympic, Sydney United, Wollongong Wolves. We're all behind you, and hopefully we can, you can build more, and hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, well, one of those premier teams that's going to join those 8 clubs is Metro Stars because they've just won the NPL South Australia competition. So that's the first confirmed additional team that's coming into the Australian Championship, and obviously there's going to be some more as we wrap up towards the end of the NPL competitions. I know that South Hobart, who played in the Australia Cup during the week, they're pretty close to clinching that NPL Tasmania title as well, which would see them join the Australian Championship. So I think we'll start to see some more clubs join it over the next few weeks
This
as
is
well.
critical, Chief. Yeah, like this second tier can make or break our competition, and we really need it to succeed. This we need that little pyramid to work if we're going to get Australian football off the ground. They've suffered massively financial losses in the last few years. This could be the icebreaker. So if we can get that right, and these clubs can build and be, a force and financial force between that, it's only going to be benefiting everyone. It's going to give more kids more game time. It's going to give more players opportunities. So the list of positives is endless. And if we can get these financial capable teams, towards a vision, then if with the right strategy, this could be huge. Because the people who support these clubs have got massive fan bases, and they're part of the football community. And we just want to wish them all the success in trying to put this together and seeing how it breaks out.
Yeah, and like as I mentioned, South Hobart were one of those teams that wanted to join the Australian Championship, and they will through the fact that they're more than likely they will through the fact that they're going to finish top in Tasmania. But maybe like Metro Stars and like South Hobart, maybe once they join in the competition, they can show Football Australia that they're more than willing or more than able to be able to compete at that level. And it might just kind of have a bit of a flow on effect, even though they're kind of getting into the competition through a side door. It could be a silver lining moment for them. So we'll see what happens in that space. So just I did mention the domestic calendar. So the A League men's competition does kick off on the 17th of October, and the women's competition on the 31st of October. And with the grand finals for both competitions being scheduled for back-to-back weekends in May. Probably the bigger news that's come out, and this has been just reported, not confirmed by the APL, but Unite round has been scrapped. So that's where all the teams were playing out of Sydney for the past couple of seasons. So looks like that is not going ahead. Look, selfishly, like I attended the last couple of Unite rounds and I loved it. Got to see a bit more football, a bit closer to me. But I genuinely think that it was one of those concepts they either had to double down on it and commit for another 5 years and see if something would happen, or they needed to scrap it, and they've taken the decision to scrap it. It's not your traditional football idea, is it? So it's probably one of those things that it was part of taking the grand final to Sydney for a 3-year commitment, which they did for 1 year, but then the fans opposed it and they had a bit of a workaround. But it's probably the best thing, I think, for the competition to just have purely home and away.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it's got legs in a smaller concept. Like, why can't we unite rounds like within states? New South Wales has got plenty of teams. Melbourne could have a derby in there. They've got their 3 teams, and maybe a long distance derby. I don't know, but I think it has merit, but probably formatted a bit more around Australian football, and where it could, probably gain some coverage. Maybe state this state or interstate. What I mean by that, all the clubs in New South Wales playing on the same day, in one stadium. Maybe that might join the fans together. Maybe that's something they might think about in the future. But yeah, look, it was always going to be a challenge logistically for this one to kick off, and it was a theme copied by the NRL, who has seen great success and now doing it with the Women's Rugby League as well. But probably just need to stick to football and what works for football. But they had a crack, so why not?
All right, let's go to a bit more of the club by club analysis of the A League competition. This one came out in regards to Adelaide United during the week. So according to 7 News Adelaide, the Reds rejected a bid by Charlotte FC in the MLS for striker Archie Goodwin. I Firstly, I think it's great that the Red Sea Archie Goodwin valued at a certain marker, and they've said, no, you haven't met our mark, and go back and try again. I think more clubs need to do that rather than selling players on the cheap. I think he should stick around and play one more season in the A League. He scored 13 goals last season. His previous best was 3. He's had a torrid time with injuries, but I think if he scores 20 next season at Adelaide United, many more offers will open up. Look what happened with Noah Bodic this off season, and I think he'll be a chance for the World Cup if he sticks around. I wouldn't like him going to the MLS at this time of his career, and I think he should stick it around for one more year in the A League.
Yeah, look, Cooks Hill United youth career. That's where he started his football and spent plenty of time with Newcastle Jets in the NPL. 21 appearances, 15 goals. He's also had the senior side, Newcastle Jets, 44 appearances, 7 goals. And as you touched on, Adelaide, great season last season, 26 games, 13 goals. And has represented Australia at the under 20 level, 3 games, 1 goal. Let's look at Charlotte, who's trying to get him. They're in the Eastern Conference. They're currently at 7th. So they got some matches played, 25 matches played, 12 wins on 38 points. So they're a mid-table Eastern Conference team, but they're in that top 9 is where you need to be in the Eastern Conference. So, they're looking to obviously get some young talent and well done to Adelaide to reject it. And they, he's only 20. We don't know the official bid, but, you've got to get the right money for the right kid if he wants to move on. Whether Charlotte's the right one, I'm not too sure about the MLS. If he really wants to push on in his career, I think he should, like you said, should stay around for one more year or look at better options. I don't think America is where we want our 20-year-olds to play. No offense to the MLS, but yeah, where would he sit in that? But I think what you've got to recognise is we've got a young talent on our hands, and at 20 years of age, already looking out overseas, but is doing well domestically. So, yeah, we wish Archie Goodwin and Adelaide all the best this year, and hopefully stays around and we see a bit more football.
Yeah, he only played. This was the first year he hasn't had all those injuries, and it was the first of a 5-year deal he's got with Adelaide this season. So Adelaide have done good business there to lock him up long term, and for him. But obviously they're looking for a bit more for a transfer fee for him. Let's moving on to Auckland FC. Scott Galloway announced that he'll be leaving the club during the week. He's going to move back to Melbourne to be closer to his family. He only played 4 games last season, so not the biggest loss for Auckland FC. They had a 6-0 trial win over West Coast Rangers during the week, and they'll be set to make their Australia Cup debut when they take on the Gold Coast Knights on Tuesday in the week coming up. Brisbane Roar have signed English striker Chris Long. He scored 0.3 goals a game at Crew Alexandra over the past 4 seasons, so not exactly prolific. But Brisbane Roar themselves, they certainly need a goal scorer. They had 32 goals last season. Sam Klein was their top scorer with 5, followed by Abubakar Ankara and Thomas Waddingham, who both had 4 goals and have both left the club. So it's certainly something that Michael Valkanis needs to address in terms of goal scoring. And I'm assuming that he thinks that Chris Long might be able to do the job.
Well, it was England youth international chief at all ages. He's been capped 14 times, scored 5 goals in the youth ranks. He was an Everton junior, but didn't get obviously a gig at Everton in the senior team, and before he'd been obviously loaned out several times. Probably, yeah, Northampton, Motherwell, where he scored some goals. And like you said, with Crew racking up 28, he might bring some good stability and level there for Brisbane. They might have found a little gem there, I think, for the A-League standard.
Yeah, they've got some good youngsters there, Brisbane. It just depends what Valkanis plans to do. So maybe a more experienced striker around those young players might be what he's looking at. So yeah, we'll see how Brisbane go. They obviously had an awful season last season, so they'll be looking for much better when the A-League season kicks off. Sydney FC, we've touched on them a lot these last couple of weeks, but it's the story that just keeps on giving Sydney FC because there's plenty going on. So reported by Marco Monteverde on Monday during the week, Joe Lolly wanting to leave Sydney FC for Perth Glory, but Sydney not wanting to let him go. Perth Glory have apparently kept a visa spot open for him, and Stan Lazaridis, their director of football, said Joe got in contact with us to tell us he wanted to play for us. So yeah, it's a tough one because obviously from what Lazaridis is saying is that Joe wants to leave. He obviously played under David Zulich as a 2IC at Sydney. So whether he's looking to spark that connection or he just needs a change, I'm not sure. But it's going to be a tricky situation if Joe Lolly stays at Sydney. Looking at this,
Nothing good's going to end up in this situation, is it? It's just going to be drama. I'd be letting him go if he really wants to go. Like A-League contracts, I'm sure they can work that out. We're not on a massive scale of transfer fees and vice versa, but I think they just mutually need to come to a decision, yeah, and like recognise each other's wishes. You never want to see players do this, but the reality is there must be more under the bridge than what we're aware of. So, yeah, look, if I was in Sydney FC's situation, I'd be trying to come up with a mutual decision with Perth. If the player's that hungry to go, I can't see any advantages in him staying around.
yeah, potentially a player swap, as you said. The no real transfer system in the A League, so yeah, maybe something like that they could do. Also reported during the week, Rudy Galetti, who's a sports journalist for Team Talk, he's saying that there's a bit of unrest at Sydney FC in the dressing room already before the season already started, and that Schalke assistant Tim Hoogland is being sounded out as a potential replacement for Ufuk Talay. What about that? Before the season's even kicked off, Sydney FC didn't have a great season last season. That's well documented, but already lining up a replacement for Ufi. Jeez, that's interesting one.
Yeah, high pressure club, isn't it? They expect higher standards, so they didn't deliver like you said last year. And Tele's got some, he's got his work cut out to try to lift it straight away. But hey, on the other side, we did see a very exciting performance against Wrexham and some better signs. So I can't see too many cracks on the surface, but you never know what's underneath in the dressing rooms. There's always going to be divide of some sort, whether that's been beaten up in the media or whatever. But I think no one's made an official statement really, have they, from Sydney? So I think, move on. This stuff happens. And I think, they've made some impressive signings and got some good youth there. So maybe the next generation's just ready to take over.
Yeah, and don't forget that Tale himself started in his role after taking over Corica. I think only 4 games into that A League season when Sydney FC got off to a rocky start. So yeah,
The
it
pressure's
could.
on, yeah, because they had a poor season last year. So,
Yeah,
we're just, everyone expects Sydney to be in that mix, but they weren't. And yeah, there's still got a lot of questions, obviously. So, yeah, look, only time will tell, but, we wish him well. Obviously, he's a good character for the game. So hopefully they just sort their stuff out and, only wins fixes this stuff.
yeah, and the rumor mill was in overdrive during the week with Thomas Muller potentially in the sights of Sydney FC to lure him over. Obviously, he's a World Cup winner, Champions League winner, multiple Bundesliga winner. Would have been a massive signing for Sydney FC to bring him in. Looks like now it's been reported later in the week that he's going to the MLS. But just for Sydney FC to have the foresight to be looking at such a superstar like that, I think is credit to them. That we tend to think about these marquee days being over, but the fact that they're obviously looking to splash a bit of money his way to bring him over is a good indication of what their ambitions are as a club, I suppose.
Yeah, well, they've done it before. There's pros and cons with this, but the media drive around it might put bums on seats. He's 131 cap, German international with 45 goals, so his credibility speaks for himself. We've seen Marta last year come out. So look, we've obviously had a lot of players in the past that have driven people through the gates, and that's probably what it's all about. But obviously, the back when we had a lot of marquees coming out, the game's changed, isn't it? Domestically, MLS, which were probably on par 10 years ago with the A League, but they've just gone from strength to strength. Beckham and all that, they're driving a vision over there, and obviously the financial,
Messi over there,
yeah, Saudi Arabia
arguably,
too,
yeah,
competition. So it's hard to get these players now. So it's a bit of a challenge. But look, if they don't get him, look, I'm not going to lose any sleep. There's plenty of youngsters under there. I'd rather see the youth come through. But it's good to see they, like you said, they've got the foresight to look at something that's going to build their club commercially as well as on the field.
Yeah, and two that they have brought through the door this week, Al Hassan Toure, the older brother of Mohammed and Musa, he's come in on a 2-year deal as a striker. So you'd expect him to start in that Sydney FC lineup over Patrick Wood. And then Paul Ocon-Engsler signing a 3-year deal. So this is one we spoke about a few weeks ago. I thought he should have stayed in Europe, but you thought good idea to bring him back to Sydney, and you got your wish, mate.
Yeah, look, I'm a massive fan. I'm a massive fan. We've seen him in the Asia Cup where the under 20s was successful. He's been capped 14 times at under 20 level, leading obviously the under 20 champions of Asia. And then under 23, he's got a last couple of caps in the last year. He developed at Bruges and Benfica. So technically, we've seen that skill set shine in the under 20s. I just want to see him play football. It's clearly over there. It's a hard one to crack at that age. So if you can get some games under his belt, I think it'd be fantastic. I'm a massive fan, and he was selected for the Socceroos, but didn't get any game time in the last set. So I can't wait to see him in the A League. This is going to be an exciting young Sydney FC team, and like also with Toure, he had a good season with Macarthur a few years ago. Played 45 games before trying Europe and now signing for Sydney FC. Again, last year not getting many games, only 8 games before 4 goals, before another 3 games for Tulsa, but just not getting enough football. And I think they're going to strike a pretty good side there, Sydney FC. So I know there's rumblings, but maybe some fresh blood into the side will freshen it up a little. They're looking quite strong and they're building nicely, Sydney FC, for a good year.
Yeah, definitely. And just on Ocon-Engsler, obviously you said him being called up to the Socceroos. Would you expect him to go to the Under-20 Asian Cup in September and October? So he'll miss that part of the season with Sydney FC. But coming back to Sydney FC and being in front of Tony Popovich week in, week out, I think that puts him right in that frame for the Socceroos squad. And I think he's going to have a really good combination with Leo Senna in that Sydney FC midfield as well. They lost Anthony Caceres to MacArthur, but I think he's a great replacement. And obviously got 13 years or something on Anthony Caceres, which is going
Yeah,
to
he
bring
plays. He
yeah
plays the 6-year-old Chief, and
yeah
we've seen the transition that he applied to the under 20s and played some beautiful passes through the channels and then through the lines. Yeah, beautiful
yeah.
mover of the football. Very good physically too. Very good, strong on the ball. We look at our 6, what we've got in the Socceroos, definitely an opportunity in there, yeah, because we struggled to hold on
Like
the
Irvine's a lock, but I think that other spot's wide
yeah.
open.
Irvine needs to be 8 or 10. We've seen his goal scoring prowess. So I think if we can get Ocon through the ranks and get a full season on their belt and get some friendlies, hopefully he might line up against this New Zealand one. I think domestically it's going to be a great opportunity. So, yeah, look, I'm super excited to see him play because I think week in, week out, I think he'll make a massive impact.
Yep. Yeah. Things are, well, depending on which way you look at it, things are looking up or things are looking shaky for Sydney FC. So we'll let our listeners decide on which side they fall on. But
I'm sure
but
Sydney FC fans will be excited by who they're signing and their performance against Wrexham. So I think football on the pitch not looking too bad.
no, agree. Melbourne City, let's look at them. Matilda Leah Davison extended for 2 more seasons. She was an instrumental player in City's amazing season last campaign. She said, I feel like there's so much more I can achieve here, and I'm excited for what's to come. So, yeah, a good pickup for Melbourne City's women's team. They've kind of doubled down on their success from last season, locking up a fair few of their players on extended contracts. So, looking like it's going to be another good season for them.
Yeah, under 20, obviously under 23 international for the Matildas at Tilly's, 6 games and obviously already capped for the Matildas, 4 games, 1 goal. Original from Palm Beach up in Brisbane. So obviously making her way down to Melbourne. She's played 80 games now and they've got Asian Champions League and a full season coming up. So she's going to get plenty of quality game time.
Yep. And also on the men's side, 16-year-old Beckham Baker, he's signed his first professional contract. So he's committed on a 3-year deal with an option to extend for a further 2 years. So City have obviously identified him as a talent and have locked him away. So that's good work from them. He's been at the City Academy since he was 10 years old. And what about this? So he joined the City Academy at 10, and then previous to that, he'd been at Manchester City, Chelsea, and Manchester United. Not a bad little CV for a 10-year-old. And yeah, earlier this year, he scored his VPL one debut with a goal and has since gone on to make 20 appearances, contributing 19 goal involvements, including 11 goals and 8 assists. So, yeah, definitely a really good prospect that Melbourne City have got on their hands there.
Mate, we've spoken about Melbourne City, another young talent. They've definitely got massive group of young crop talent there in Melbourne City. So watch this space the next few years. They have got some talent. They've secured a fair few signings if you want to look deep into that squad over the last 12 months.
Yeah, and look, with the backing of the City Football Group, we know that they're going to want to win trophies. They're going to want to achieve things there, but they're also going to want to try and identify that talent that they can then feed on to some of their other clubs around the world as well. So potentially Beckham Baker is going to be one of those that goes through that path. But yeah, credit to Beckham and credit to Melbourne City for what they're doing down there.
Yep, exciting future.
Melbourne Victory. So Alex Chidiac has been transferred to Serie A club FC Como for a club record transfer fee. We didn't see what the actual fee was, but this is a statement from John Delitza from the club. So as a club, we made a decision 2 years ago to sign Chids to a long-term, full-time contract. So to now secure a record fee for her transfer to Como FC demonstrates the value of investing in our players and our program. So just actually in this week, I've seen a few other A League women's contracts that aren't just that 1 year extension, they're kind of 2 or 3 years. And I think this is where the A League women's competition needs to go. Similar to the men's, we need to start locking away some of these talents on longer term deals so that if these clubs do come in for them, that they can actually demand a transfer fee. It's just the way forward for the clubs.
Yeah, definitely. And Como, if we look at they're in obviously the Serie A. So Como come sixth last year. It's a bit of an interesting system. They break the top five off of the bottom five. So they ended up having to fight out a relegation system, which they come second in that one. So they're well safe from safety in that one. So once again, they'll compete in a 10 team system and also joins Winnie over there, who's in Roma. So a couple of Aussies over there now in the Serie A for women.
Yeah, and Chid still had a year to run on her contract, and just on Como FC, I was reading a few articles during the week about the club themselves. So they're actually independent from the men's team, which is quite unusual for those European competitions. And they have like some great ambitions for the women's game. Their sponsors are all aligned to what they're trying to achieve, and it's a really good story about what they're doing there. So yeah, Chids is definitely going there to be part of something pretty special over in Como.
Yep, another exciting one of our female Matildas players over in Europe. So good luck. We wish you well over there in the Serie A.
Yeah, she's only 26, Jude, so probably hasn't broken out into the Matildas as some might have expected. Hasn't gotten the opportunity. She probably didn't shine as much as she could have in those first couple of games under Joe Montemurro, but potentially a move over there will spark something in her. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep, no, wish you well and all the best. And we'll move on now, Chief, to the. You got any more news for Melbourne Victory?
Yeah, so a couple more of the youngsters, so Luka Kolic and Kane Razmovsky, they joined the senior men's from the academy. So Razmovsky was a member of the Young Socceroos squad during the AFC Asian Cup winning campaign. So yeah, they're trying to rival a bit of Melbourne City's work and bring through a few of their youngsters, which they've been criticised for in the past, not bringing through enough of their youth or not giving them the opportunities. So good to see them making that move as well. And just on, wasn't sure if this should sit under Melbourne Victory or Wellington Phoenix, but Marco Rojas announced his retirement during the week. So I thought that was worth touching on. Gee, when he was playing with Melbourne Victory in particular, that combination he had with Archie Thompson all those years back in the A League, he was absolutely untouchable and a fantastic talent. Probably didn't kick on as potentially could have, but he was a very exciting player for the A League.
Yeah, he transferred to the Bundesliga or something, wasn't it? Marco, and then obviously come back to Australia, obviously to play his football. So we wish him all the best. He definitely caused some excitement down there, and no doubt in the successful Melbourne Victory days, weren't they? He definitely had a lot of success with that club. So we wish him all the best.
Yep. Let's move on to Newcastle Jets. So their women's team announced during the week that they've released 8 players, including the multi-code athlete Sheridan Gallagher, who also plays for the Newcastle Knights in the NRLW. And then a day later, they brought in New Zealand international goalkeeper and elite for the upcoming season. So, yeah, a bit of business going on for the Newcastle Jets women's team. For the Western Sydney Wanderers, Josh Brillante, he's extended for one more season. He's probably at the time of his career now where I think don't know if Wanderers are going to be relying on him, for a lot of starts during the season. Potentially they will, but probably looking to bring that new generation through in and around him. He's been a fantastic player over the years, but yeah, I'd say he's probably his starting days getting fewer and fewer as he goes on.
Yeah, definitely. Oh well, let's. What else other news have you got coming out of Wellington Phoenix?
Yeah, so Carlo Armiento, he signed for next season. He's a former Adelaide, Perth, and Brisbane player. Probably the most interesting thing I found about his signings was a quote from Giancarlo Italiano. We mentioned last week about the way that Chiefy likes to play, but this was part of his statement. He said the way we're going to play this season, he's meaning to Carlo, is going to be an influential left-sided player that's going to give us a lot of goals and assists. So yeah, it's interesting. It looks like he's probably having a change of philosophy, Italiano, this season. So he's obviously brought in a new striker as well. So maybe watch this space to see what's happening with Wellington. And then yeah, just finally on the A League women's for Wellington Phoenix, Lebanon international Tiana Jaber has signed a 2-year contract extension, saying it was an easy decision to recommit to the Phoenix for the following season. So yeah, that's a bit of an A League wrap. We're obviously in the midst of the off season, all the transfers, plenty of activity happening, and some of them part of the Australia Cup as well.
Yep, well, lots to look forward to there. There's plenty more to talk about there. We'll talk about the Cups games after we'll go around the grounds with Chiefs Challenge, and then we'll hit Europe. What do you got for Chiefs Challenge this week, mate?
Yeah, mate. Firstly, let's talk about last week. So, you mentioned you're going to send me a message for your
I
answer, but I
let
never
you
got
down.
it. So,
I was on the money though. I knew I just the kickboxing, just you know, you'll have to explain that one a bit later.
no, that's just an article I saw for him. So Daniel McBreen is the answer. One of our followers on Instagram actually got the answer. So well done to them. So let's go for this week's Chiefs challenge. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. This week's not going to be a player. This question is: how many World Cup winners have played in the A League men's competition?
Ooh, I love it. What a great question.
Do
Hey,
you have any
did
clues, mate? You want to throw a number out there for us?
I reckon a handful, so probably anywhere between 3 to 6, Chief. You know, we had some early marquees back at the start. They're slowly dwindled off, but I can definitely think of one Italian stallion. So we'll leave the rest.
I think everyone will be able to work that one out. Um, but there's a few obvious ones. There's a few other a bit random. So yeah, see how you go with that one. So how many World Cup winners have played in the A League men's competition? That's Chiefs challenge for this week. Have a go. Drop us a comment on the socials. See if you can guess it, and list out the names if you can as well. All right, let's go over to Europe. There's plenty happening over in Europe. Let's start in England with Manchester United. James Overy has signed his first professional contract with Manchester United. So he was training with the first team towards the end of last season. He seems a good fit for Amarin's system. So he's a right wing back from what I've seen. So obviously Amarin likes to play for those wing backs. Wonder if he's any shot of cracking the first team this season. He's played a fair bit for the under 18s. He had a couple of injuries as well last season, but wonder if we might have a little breakout star coming into the Man U team this year.
Well, is he on tour with them? I'll have to check to see whether he's over on their tour. See whether he's in the squad. because that'd be fantastic. Are we going to cap him or what, Chief? Well, obviously, could go dual international. So,
Yeah, I think he's got Scottish heritage as well, and I think
yeah,
he might have even played for Scotland underage. So,
he
yeah,
has.
another one of
Last
those.
year, he did play 4 games for the Australian under 20s, and he has played once for the Scottish team under 19s in the same year. So everyone's getting in on that one. He was originally from Perth in his youth career, yeah, right
Mm.
back. So exciting. He's currently 17. So yeah, there's plenty of development there. I'll see if I can find out whether he's on that Man U tour or whether they've left him behind.
Yeah, nice, mate. Yeah, look, obviously, I said he fits Amram's system. Obviously, that's going to mean he's going to fit Popovic's system as well. So, yeah, probably a bit much to say he's even a smoky for the World Cup squad, but certainly, as we mentioned last week, building for that 2030 squad, looking very promising. Let's go to QPR. Daniel Benny got an assist. He assisted Jalen Pearman as QPR claimed a 2-2 draw with Cardiff during the week. The two of them got 23 minutes off the bench. It was a nice link up for their goal. Breakaway for Daniel Benny and just slotted it in for Pearman to score. Keely Adams was started in that one and played 67 minutes. And then QPR also played overnight. All three of our Aussies started on the bench, but Benny played the whole second half and he got the equaliser. Actually, it was a long ball over the top from the keeper, and he ran onto it and lobbed the keeper himself. He looked like he was playing as a striker there. We've obviously seen a fair bit of him playing on that right wing or even at right fullback. So showing his versatility, Daniel Benny.
He's my
Um,
favourite player, Chief. I love him.
yeah,
Watch this space go, Danny. I'm super pumped. I seen
mate.
again part of that Australian under 20s Asian Cup squad. He is Mopper's number one talent.
Keely
Sorry,
Adamson
sorry,
also
openly, you're close, all right. But Daniel Benny, I'm super excited.
Keely Adamson also played the second half, but Jalen Pearman was an unused sub for them. Over at Coventry, Rafael Borges Rodriguez scored in a 2-0 friendly win. To be honest, reading some of the comments, he was given the goal, but it was a heavy deflection, looked like more of a cross for him. But look, you take it if the referee's going to put the name in his notebook. So he played the second 45 for Coventry, which is a good sign. He was not getting a lot of game time, even in their friendlies, and particularly towards the end of last season as they push for promotion to the Premier League. So good to see him get some game time. For Derby, Callum Elder got 20 minutes in their 3-2 win over Warsaw, and then he got 90 minutes in the 2-1 loss to Burton Albion over the weekend. So plenty of football for all of our Aussies over in England. In Middlesbrough, Tom Glover, he was linked with a move to, get this, Azerbaijan. So I don't know where that one's come from, but he started and played 72 minutes midweek. Unfortunately, Riley McGree came off injured in the 39th minute. Another injury for Riley McGree. Man, the guy can't take a break. Poor bloke. But in some more positive news at Borough, Sammy Silvera is really impressing new Borough manager Rob Edwards. The quote from Rob Edwards said, Sammy is really impressed since returning. He's always got a smile on his face and has a real energy. He wants to press, he wants to sprint back, and he's got some real qualities on the ball. He has impressed me. That's what I want from everyone. He's just dead keen to be here. He took some responsibility himself, and he's just shown a great attitude over the 3 weeks so far. I want to see that, and I'm sure the supporters do too. I actually thought that Sammy Silvera might be out the door at Middlesbrough, but based on those quotes from Rob Edwards, he seems like he's fully in the mix for some game time at Borough.
Well, they're pretty thin, the Borough squad. They've got some work to do, Chief. Probably a great opportunity for him staying at the moment. They've got a couple of problems to getting some players in at the moment, Borough. I will just give you a quick medical update on Riley because we know what a fantastic assist he got against Japan for us and what a key cog he is for the Socceroos. The update was he just felt a bit of tightness, so that was more precautionary. We're hoping it's no more than that after the
Oh,
game
that's
on
that's
Saturday.
really good. That's really
Yeah.
good. I thought it might
So
be another long term one.
nah. So Riley felt he wanted to work on his intensity a little bit more. I know it was in his head. He was flying around tonight, buzzing around, and I think it was just he just felt few things tighten up. So they just took the precaution to take him off, Chief. So hopefully all is well with Riley McGree. We know the last couple of years he's suffered some really horrific injuries, But in the last 3 months, he's been intense rehab program to get fully fit. So hopefully that one's just a precaution.
Mate, touch wood, we have an injury-free season for Riley McGree. He certainly deserves a bit of that luck, and it would be great to see that in the lead up to the World Cup for the
Definitely,
Socceroos.
definitely. James
Um,
Overy too, Chief. Sorry to butt in. Is
you're right.
not in that squad. Is
Yeah.
still training with the youth academy back at Man U.
Yeah. Oh well, that's good. We'll get him some game time for them, and we'll build into that Man U first team when it all starts to unravel during the season.
Definitely.
All right, over at Swansea, Cameron Burgess got 72 minutes in their 2-1 loss to Cheltenham. Over at Millwall, Massimo Luongo signed a 1-year deal. So another Aussie in the championship. I counted that as 17 players now in the championship across 10 clubs. Almost guarantees us that we'll have an Aussie matchup or potential Aussie matchup each weekend. So very exciting stuff. I had a question for you, mate. At 32, is Luongo past his Socceroos days?
Oh, look, I don't think he's done. I think there's still opportunity. 32 is still a good age. I think what you'll find, though, is the amount of young players coming through and actually playing prolifically, and we haven't seen that in the past. And I keep touching on that under 20 squad and under 23s. Seen a lot of development of our youth over the time. So if I'm Popovich, I'm going to test those waters. But I still think he offers some experience and could be a valuable squad member. But would we have seen him prior? Probably, if Popper really wanted to test him out. So at the moment, but you put 12 months under your belt in the championship and you start by this move with Millwall. If he starts every week, then it kind of like says, well, I'm here, and he can play the game, and he was in the Premier League last year, so there's no risk with him. He knows the level. So I, if it was me, I think he's probably close only because of the young development underneath. But I think depends what relationship he's got with Popper in his 12 months. So there's always hope. So I don't write him off, but there is a number of young players coming through in that space, in that area. So I'm sure Popper is going to want to see who produces what over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool for him though to get into one of those camps next to Ocon Engsler, next to a Ryan Teague, a Yazbek, and actually just be with him, just kind of give him a bit of advice. And we do have these. That's the fortune that we do have in these friendlies coming up, where we can take bigger squads. And is it the worst thing to be taking him in an extended squad to be able to get around these guys and potentially, he's a professional. He's going to want to show Popper what he's got as well at the same time. But I think the players could learn a lot from him from his experience.
And you look at the Socceroos, Chief, one of the big weaknesses is we can't hold the ball or transition as well as what we'd like. So
Yeah,
there's valuable experience there. If he wants to go down that path, it just depends on what Popper's philosophy is in the next 6 to 12 months. But he'll get three good opportunities to look at. So you've got New Zealand first, Canada, and then America. If you don't see him in those squads, we probably won't see him again. But there's three camps coming up, all in good areas. So we'll watch this space.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, mate. Let's go over to Watford. They had a 1-1 draw with Leighton Orient. The statement around Diran Kunda was that the game came too soon for him. So just still getting into his work here in Kunda. They have another friendly coming up, I believe, this weekend. So potentially we'll see some minutes for Iran Kunda then. 60 minutes for Caleb Watts at Plymouth Argyle after he moved there from Exeter City. They lost 2-0 to Bristol City. Our Portsmouth boys, they had a 4-0 win over Reading. Segacic started and played 75 minutes, 30 minutes for Jacob Farrell and Thomas Waddingham off the bench, and 20 minutes for Hayden Matthews off the bench as well. Is Segacic the most likely to start out of them? We are getting to that point, and I think, the championship starts in 2 weeks' time. Finalizing some of these squads, he's probably starting to get less and less game time for the fringe players. But Segacic starting in that game and playing just about all of it's a big statement.
Well, I love your question. I've seen your notes, so I did a little bit of deep diving into this subject. So Pompey play a 4-2-3-1, Chief. So obviously a 9 up front and a 10 in behind, but then two nines. They kind of mix it up a little bit in there. So the number 9 at the moment is Callum Lang and Colby Bishop. So let's look at Colby Bishop first. He is the number 9. He has the number 9. Pompey's record, 119 appearances, 51 goals. So that's pretty impressive. And then Callum Lang plays beside him or just behind him. He signed there last year, 41 appearances, 14 goals. So there's some stiff competition. They did score a few goals last year, but they are the notable ones that he's going to come up against. But I would say Bishop would be number 1, and I'd say he'd be fighting it out with Lang, who's obviously got there last year. But definitely could play 2 strikers, 4-2-3-1. They, as I said, they normally push the 10 up or sit in behind. So it'd be very interesting to see what they do. But he's definitely in with a shout, and he's definitely shown in pre-season what he can do. I think it's created great competition for Pompey, and they've got a few options there. Long season though, Chief, 46 games in the championship, plenty of cup games. So I think you're going to see a multiple. I don't think you'll get left out. I definitely think you'll get a lot of games.
Yeah, obviously a completely different profile, but Thomas Waddingham also fighting for minutes at the top end of the pitch, Pompey as well. So yeah, we'll wait and see in a couple of weeks' time of
Well, I
those
like
four
that
Aussies.
10. I think Waddingham can challenge Lang because obviously I think they're probably fighting it out for that second role or just in behind because Waddingham to me is great with the ball at his feet, and then Bishop is going to be Bodic's number 1 challenge there because he's been there for a long.
Segachic's, sorry,
Oh,
you
so
said
he's
what
just sorry, mate.
it.
I'm getting excited over Austria when it's just they're just everywhere. I love it. I had a Champions League qualifier. That's why I've got him in the notes. But
Yeah,
sorry, mate.
we'll get to it, mate. Hold your horses. Um, all right. We'll just last thing in England. Haley Razzo has been rumoured to be transferring to Benfica. So saw that one during the week. Haven't seen anything confirmed on that one. But look, Haley Razzo, she's one of our stars for the Matildas, and she just needs some minutes, some consistent minutes. So if that is going to happen in Benfica, then I'm all for the move. But I just want to see her consistently playing.
Yeah, he's been around a few clubs, so yeah, hopefully she just finds some stability. Interesting move to Portugal, but hey, you got to go where you're playing football, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's jump across a few other countries in Europe. So Denmark, Mo Toure played 66 minutes for Randers. His brother Musa was an unused sub midweek. And then they had another game over the weekend. So Mohamed Toure played 69 minutes, claiming an assist, while Musa was again unused. Paul Izzo and Oliver Jones both injured. So we've now got Paul Izzo injured, Joe Gauchi injured, and Matty Ryan without a club. Not ideal.
Nah, definitely not. Look, there's a bit of time in the window, so we've heard some talk about Matt Ryan. Hopefully, he can secure something soon. Yeah, and we'll just have to watch Gauchi's recovery and see where that lands. So, yeah, it's not a good start for the keepers, but there's plenty out there, so you never know. Someone might pop their head up, challenge them. That might be the good thing.
Yep. All right, let's go with our thousands of Aussies in Scotland. So Cassini Youngie scored for Aberdeen in a 4-1 friendly loss to Fulham. He also started and played 79 minutes as they lost 3-1 to Ipswich in a pre-season friendly, and Nicholas Milanovic was brought on at halftime in that game as well. So Aberdeen kick off their season next weekend, Scottish Premiership, with a match up against Hearts, an Aussie pair, Cam Devlin and Callum Neuenhoff. So speaking of Hearts, Devlin played 73 minutes and got an assist in Hearts' 4-0 win over Dumbarton. Neuenhoff also played the full 90, and then they had another game just in the last couple of days. Cam Devlin played 90 minutes against Sunderland, picked up man of the match. Callum Neuenhoff came off injured, unfortunately for him, after 22 minutes against Sunderland. So, yeah, Neuenhoff's had terrible time with injuries, so hopefully that one's not too serious for them. And Nectar Triandis was not included in the matchday squad for Sunderland. So whether that means he just wasn't selected or whether that means he's going to be moved on somewhere. There's plenty of rumours going around, so we'll see what happens with Triantis.
Yeah, it's got to get some stability. We've said this all along. Yeah, got to get 12 months under your belt. Yeah, but anyway, we'll watch this space for that move.
Yep. At Motherwell, Apostolos Damasolopoulos scored after Johnny Katrumba's shot was saved. So Katrumbas, another Aussie there at Motherwell. So they made it through the round of 16 of the League Cup with a 3-0 win over Greenock Morton. Stamatolopoulos also scored in Motherwell's 1-1 friendly draw against Hertha Berlin. Now, he was reportedly trying to be signed by Viking, and their first offer was rejected. Motherwell have come out and said they're not actively looking to sell him, but plenty of interest in one of our Socceroos strikers in some form there at Motherwell. So he's probably hasn't had a decent look in for the Socceroos, but don't forget about him. If he can go on a bit of a run of goals in Scotland, he'll be well in the mix.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he stays. Is he starting over there, Chief, or what do we
Yep.
know? Yeah,
Yeah, he's starting most weeks in Motherwell. Yep.
yeah. So would you take the risk or would you go to Viking? Yeah, muchness and muchness that one.
Yep. We do have a couple of Aussies up there at Viking as well. So D'Agostino and Stensness both got some long term injuries, but yeah, you'd have some Aussie mates if you were to make that move up there. Our boys at Hibs, so they were absolutely dominated against Midtjylland's, but managed a 1-1 draw in the Europa Conference League qualifier. Martin Boyle got the captain's armband, played 83 minutes, and Jack Iredale also played 90 minutes. Lewis Miller missed the game, said was just an impact injury, so whether he's going to be available for the return leg. But yeah, tough night against Midtjylland. Obviously, they're well well experienced in that European type style competition. So yeah, see if they can get across the line in the second leg. The Hibs boys.
Dundee United, what have we got? We've got Zach Sapsford scored the only goal as Dundee United beat Eunice Strassen. Ryan Strain played the full 90 as well, so that's good news. And in Livingston, Ryan McGowan captains Livingston to a 6-0 win over Kelty Hearts. Tate Yangi not in the match day squad. So I'll tell you what, there's a bit of depth in Scotland football this year. So especially we'll see a lot more competition, I think. Celtics obviously way out in front. But there's some depth with these clubs, so hopefully we can see some plenty of football time for the boys over there. They seem to have found their space and spot over there. Yeah,
Yeah, Zach Sapsford, his goal was really well taken. Just picked up the ball in the half turn, nutmegged the player, and slotted the ball home. The team they played was against Luxembourg. A few of their fans weren't very happy that it was only a 1-0 win, but they've got a job to do in the second leg in that qualifier as well. So yeah, they're looking to continue on in their competition, and yeah, good to see Sapsford finding his feet in Scotland.
and then you got we'll go around Europe, Chief. You've got obviously we just spoke about our keepers. Obviously in France, reported that we prompted this a couple of weeks ago that League One side in France, FC Lorient, who just got promoted, are interested in Matt Ryan. We said need our keepers playing. Ryan too good not to get picked in a decent level in Europe. So we'll watch that space as that one unfolds. That'd be a decent club to go over there in League One over there in France. I think, yeah, it'd be good competition over there too.
Yeah, I think he would. Yeah, being a newly promoted club, as I said, I think he's too good not to get picked up at a decent level in Europe. So he just can't go. I just don't think he can go too big and be a number two again. Just needs to go where he's almost going to be guaranteed to start at a good level, get the minutes under his belt before the World Cup.
And what do you know about Antino Arena, Chief, who joins ASA Roma? Antino Arena. What have we
Yeah,
got on
he's
the?
the 16-year-old wonder kid. So he's got the dual nationality. He's played a few underage games for Italy, but yeah, joined AS Roma during the week. I think the fee was around 2 million euros for him. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's impressive for a 16-year-old.
yeah, it really is. So yeah, look, another one of those ones where potentially he's going to pledge and play with Italy, but he does have Australian heritage as well. So we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, big move for a young wonder kid over in Italy. So yeah, we'll keep a track of him and see what happens.
All right,
And
what's
then,
happening in Hungary, Chief?
yeah, so Daniel Arzani, he wasn't included in the matchday squad, but Ferencváros beat FC Noah in the first leg of their round two Champions League qualification. So I saw some reports that he wasn't fit. So and then they played overnight as well, and looks like that he again wasn't fit. So yeah, probably just getting up to speed with what's required over there. So we'll keep an eye on Zani, and hopefully he's involved sooner rather than later. So over in Croatia, Anthony Kalic scored for Hajduk Split in their 1-1 draw against Zira as they're attempting to qualify for the Europa Conference League. The return leg is going to be in Croatia next week. So Fran Karacic, who's a new signing for them, he played 20 minutes off the bench, as did Noah Skoko, son of Josip Skoko, who has played 21 times for Croatia underage level. So potentially the son of one of our Socceroos going to play for Croatia. Another one.
I love Skoko back in the day. Yeah, he was a good player.
Oh, he's fantastic. But it looks like his son is feeling like playing for Croatia instead of Australia, which is obviously his right. But a shame if he's a quality kid that we're not going to see him play for Australia.
Oh, well, we wish him well. Otherwise, Joseph Skoko was very loyal to the Socceroos and had a great career with the Socceroos in the golden generation.
Yep. In the Netherlands, big move for Jordy Boss, who's joined Feyenoord on a 4-year deal from Westerlo. So in his first interview, he said, "It's my family's club. My dad is Dutch, so they've been supporting Feyenoord for many generations." I saw some great photos of him as a kid in a Feyenoord jersey, so it's certainly. And this question was put to him as well. It's more than a transfer for him. It means a lot to him to join that club, and it's a massive move for him. We hope to see him maintain some fitness for this upcoming season. But yeah they've got some great ambitions over there at Feyenoord, and yeah, we hope he's going to do really well. His first match in the Eredivisie is going to be against Max Ballard's NAC Breda. So yeah, very interesting times, and good to see a few of our Aussies doing their thing in the Eredivisie. But yeah, we mentioned this last week when it was rumored him going, but he just needs game time, doesn't he?
Yeah, he needs to get back fit. He's been out for a while. Great talent for the Socceroos, left back, an attacking left-sided player. I think the Dutch system and the Dutch style of play will suit him down to the ground. And look, we just wish him well to get his fitness back. And yeah, they're in Europe obviously too, so great opportunity for Geordie Boss to really push on and get a good 12 months under his belt like the others.
Yep. All right. So Cameron Pipion got 75 minutes for ADO Den Haag in their 0-0 friendly draw. Also in the Netherlands. Over in Austria, Noah Bodic got 33 minutes off the bench for Austria Vienna in their 2-0 win over Sperry in the Europa Conference League qualification. And also in Austria, Jacob Italiano started, but his Grazer AK side lost 1-0 to be knocked out of the Austrian Cup in the first round. Bodic and Italiano are actually going to go head-to-head in round one of the Austrian Bundesliga, so interesting times there as well. And Jed Drew played 22 minutes as Hartberg thumped SB Lafnitz 5-2 in the first round of the Austria Cup. Not sure if you've seen the kits of Hartberg, Muppa, but they have 24 sponsors on their kit, including one on their socks. So
Wow.
uh,
I'm gonna have
you
to
kind
Google that one.
yeah, you might have to because it's a sight for sore eyes seeing all those names and all that branding all over their jerseys. It's quite something to see. All right, a few more countries to get through in Europe. So Switzerland, Liam Chipperfield, son of Scott Chipperfield, played 26 minutes off the bench in the Swiss Super League season opener. Sion got off to a winning start, 3-2 over FC Zurich. And in Belgium, KV Mechelen started the season with a 1-1 draw with Zulte Waregem. Ryan Teague plays 17 minutes off the bench. They conceded a late penalty in the 90 plus 10 minutes, but it looked like from the stats they were under the pump, so probably a good result in the end. But I think looking at that with Teague, it shows that these starts are not guaranteed for any of these players, aren't they? They're going to have to work and earn their spots. These are great moves that they've made, but they definitely have to earn their spots everywhere they go.
Yeah, definitely. But look, at least we're talking about a lot of them playing, whether it's off the bench or starting. They're all getting time. Obviously, each country's at each different level. Some are in Europe qualification, some are in their domestic, already started, and some are just trialing. But at least everyone's playing some part of football. And that's the biggest criticism we've had of players going overseas, picking the wrong clubs. But yeah, I see a lot of potential there, Chief. And yeah, a lot of opportunities obviously to go forward. It's only early days and yeah, they're going to have to work. Well, that's the elite level, isn't it? They have to work and prove themselves. So that's their challenge, and we wish them well in doing it. And but I think they've found some good clubs to challenge themselves at.
Yep. All right, let's go over to the US in the MLS. So New York City, Aiden O'Neill played the full 90 in a 4-3 thriller over Dallas. He's been averaging 78 minutes a game since he's moved from standard Liège, so good to see him getting into that system really well. He's has been an integral part of the Socceroos over the years, so important for us that he keeps getting game time. And another one of our Socceroos, Patrick Yazbak, he played 90 minutes, but didn't have the best game for Nashville. He gave away a penalty that wasn't converted, but they still lost 1-0 to San Diego. So they're starting to fall back a bit in that Eastern Conference. Someone who's gone terribly in the Eastern Conference is DC United. Kai Rolls, he played 90 minutes in their 4-2 loss, but they're coming second last in the Eastern Conference, really struggling over there. Jake Gerbert played 13 minutes off the bench for St. Louis City in their 2-1 loss to Minnesota. They're also struggling on the other side of the country in the Western Conference, coming second last. And Arieth Piol played 11 minutes off the bench in their 2-1 win to San Jose. So interesting that probably the younger guys that have gone over to the MLS, similar to what we are talking about with Archie Goodwin, haven't exactly hit the ground running. I think it's probably a tough league to crack when you're young. Whereas, some of the more experienced guys, probably Yazbek's the only younger profile that's really done really well over there. But the ones that are a couple of years younger probably struggling a bit for game time.
Yeah, it's an interesting market, and yeah, I'm not a massive fan of our youth heading that down that direction, but I guess they're only trying to seek to improve themselves and get more exposure. But yeah, I think you're right. I think this is the A League's challenge to try to offer a little bit more, so we can obviously keep them maintaining it. You've got a bit of a flip side, haven't you? You've got a few going over there that are being targeted, but then you've got a few coming back. So it's a balancing act sometimes, but yeah, it's a big challenge when you're a young footballer because you're trying to seek financial stability and you're trying to put your name out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, like Arias Piol, I think he played something like 11 games in Australia before going over there, and Jake Gilbert Reich wouldn't have played that many either before he went. So yeah, it's a tough one, and you can see it from the players' perspective. If big contracts are offered to them, and when the A League's not offering them all that much, that they see that opportunity and they go. But whether it's the right move, I suppose we'll see in time. But just also down the road in Mexico, Emily Gilnick, she scored a penalty in Monterrey's 4-2 win. Querétaro as well in Mexico. So yeah, she's settling in well in Mexico. So last one of our around the grounds is in Japan. Tommy Dang, yeah, they got a 3-0 win, Yokohama F Marinos. So they climbed off the bottom of the ladder. So they're finally getting somewhere. So I had a question about if he's in Socceroos contention, but we might leave that one for another day to talk about. But he's certainly getting some game time, and I wonder if he's on Popovic's radar.
Geez, there's some depth in there now with those young, like especially with Matthews Chief. So yeah, that could be a really good conversation next week because yeah, there's some young talent coming through, and we've already seen them, Starati and as well.
Well, just quickly, yeah. Suter, if when fit, Sicardi, Burgess, Matthews, and Rolls, if we're talking 6 of those centre back spots, that's probably 5 of them there. So
Yeah.
you're probably talking about Dang, Guerrier, Stensis if he gets back fit. Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of option for another player to come in there.
No. But anyway, 12 months is a long time. And again, like we said, 3 camps, 3 games against some opposition. So they're all going to get their chance.
We're halfway through the Australia Cup round of 32. Once all the games have been played, the round of 32, we'll do a full wrap of all those ones. The Perth versus Wellington game is just finished up, but we'll do a full summary once all the games played. From Football Australia this week, they announced that Vito Chilaro passed away during the week. He was aged 95. In the statement, he said his tireless commitment to football in Victoria and beyond was recognised with life membership of the Victorian Soccer Federation in 1988, followed by his induction into the Football Australia Hall of Fame in 2003. Vito was also a pioneering supporter of women's football in Australia at a time when the women's game received little recognition or support. He advocated for opportunity, visibility, and investment. He accompanied the Australian women's national team on early international tours and was a vocal champion of the team's potential. In his later years, he took immense pride in witnessing the rise of the Combat Matildas, knowing he had played a part in their journey. What a what a fantastic achievement from Vito, and so pleasing that he got to see how the success of the Matildas and their brand out there for all the legwork that he did in those early years.
Yeah, thoughts go out to the family, and what a career, what a life, and what a contribution. Outstanding. And you 100% hit the nail on the head, Chief. To see where the Matildas are at now is just reward for all his hard work and his fellow mates that supported him and women in the game. Fantastic tribute. And yeah, we wish all their family all the support and best. But congratulations, Vito. Absolute superstar in gaining the leverage that they have with the Matildas team, and many contributions to many people in our football community.
Yeah, and probably some listeners would know his son, Santos Solaro, as well, who is a comedian but has definitely put a lens on football as well. And absolutely, he's so passionate. He loves the sport as well. So he's continued that legacy through his father in a different way as well. All right, let's go on to the Young Matildas Asian Cup qualifiers. Their squad was announced during the week. Did you want to touch on a few of those, mate?
Yeah, so just a bit of background on the 20s. So they had a 32-player squad back in the 23rd June to 2nd of July. Obviously, Alex Ipicas put them through their paces to see who would challenge themselves to go through the program, to see who would tackle the Asia Cup qualifiers. Obviously, we've got a couple of notables there too with Alana Murphy, and as well, we've got Daniel Gallic, who's just made a transfer. Obviously, I'm assuming due to those transfers, or it could be the Peace Cup that's coming up for the under 23s in a couple of weeks as well. And the under 16s are obviously just been announced for another Asia tournament. So all the girls, 16s, 20s, and 23s will be playing in August. But back to the young Matildas side, we've got that 32-player squad cut down. And obviously, a couple of notes that we've got here, which we want to say is obviously we've got Grace Calamo, who obviously debuted for the Matildas against Panama. And also, we also seen the debut of Alex Apokokos. You'll have to get me on that one, Chief.
Alexia Apostolakis, that one.
You are a legend. They had their Matildas debuts in the last Matildas campaign, so they'll lead the line. And obviously, Alex's will obviously keep that defence nice and tight. These are important qualifiers, as we announced before, playing in Tajikistan. They've got to qualify for the Asia Cup, so we must get in preparation for that. We must get into that top four to really break through to the Asia Cup, which is next year. I want to touch on one player, Millie Borton. We haven't really heard much from her. She has been playing in the younger Matildas team. She's a dual citizen of England and Australia, but she's with the Arsenal under 21s and has had some exposure with Tottenham and Ipswich over there. Very highly rated attacking player, which we haven't seen in the Matildas camp yet, obviously due to her commitments probably overseas. But she will be obviously no doubt my breakout pick, Millie Broughton. She brings a lot of European experience, even though it's at the younger level. They're excited to see her play because Alana Murphy's going to be a massive, massive miss. And obviously, Indy Dos Santos obviously got that major injury before the camp. And Daniel Gallic is obviously just started with a career just made that transfer last week that we mentioned, but her team is obviously in competition. So
Yeah.
with no window, you're probably there the notable absences. But I'll tell you what, Chief, there is some light. There is a Woombarra goalkeeper who wasn't picked in the under 20s camp. I'd like to congratulate Sophia Fante from Woombarra. Obviously, we're from down the coast in Wollongong as well, and we'd like to shout out to Sophia, who played for the Stingrays and obviously has made the under 20s super excited for the Woombarra goalkeeper. And she's made her under 20 Matildas debut, and she'll be the third goalkeeper, one of three, with Jasmine Black and Alona Malega, who were in the original camp. So exciting things coming up for the under-20s. They've got, as I said, that big competition to qualify for the Asia Cup in Thailand in 2026. We've got our group game with Kazakhstan ranked 155, Palestine ranked 134, and China Taipei 42, which will be fighting out to get into that stage so we can get in that 12-team tournament. So
Those
exciting.
those
Yeah,
rankings are for the full national team. Is that right?
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
So I just got a gauge on obviously where they sit senior-wise,
Yeah, yeah.
and we'll obviously wish them well for the tour.
Yeah, Millie Borton, good to see another one of our Aussies in the Arsenal system, alongside our three in the senior squad as well. And Indiana Dos Santos, I saw some photos during the week. She's had her up for the ACL, so into recovery mode now. So hopefully she goes well.
And obviously, Chief, we wrap it up with under 16s women's squad just announced for the Asian Women's Tournament to be held on 18th of August and 29th of August. So it's all happening for our young women. That squad was announced, and obviously, it's a large squad, and probably some of the emerging Matildas, probably that's where they've gauged their squad from, or where they've talent scouted from. So that'll be exciting. And also, too, don't forget this week coming, Women's Asia Cup 2026 draw takes place 29th of July. Full tickets are on sale for the general public now after the pre-sale. So you'll be able to see that 12-team tournament draw on the 29th at Town Hall. And Iran was the last one to get through last week, and they lock in pot 4. So just to go through: Australia, Japan, North Korea, pot 1; China, South Korea, Vietnam, pot 2; Philippines, Chinese Taipei, and Uzbekistan pot 3, and Iran, India, and Bangladesh pot 4. So go the Matildas, and hopefully you secured your tickets for the games in Perth, Gold Coast, and Sydney for the Matildas.
All right, mate. You've time to take a breath now. So there was a lot to get through tonight, but yeah, always plenty happening in Australian football that we like to bring to you every week. So thank you for listening to the Aussie Game podcast. We appreciate everyone's support. If you could give us a rating or a review where you listen to your podcasts, we'd really appreciate it. It just helps us get our podcast out there and get it to a few more people. So if you could take a couple minutes to do that, we would really appreciate it. And make sure you follow us on the socials as well. But that's it for us for this evening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we look forward to being with you next time.
All right, all the best, and enjoy football. It's a smorgasbord.